Hello and welcome to the Property Pilot Podcast. I am your host, Brian Graham. This is episode number 18, where we're going to be talking about how we use leverage in real estate investing, specifically how to buy real estate. So I am going to be talking about, a lot of numbers here, and I want to make sure I stay on topic and I get the numbers correct and the percentages correct. So if you're here watching the video, forgive me as I look off screen so I can, check in and make sure that my numbers are right. I don't give you stupid information or false information. So first and foremost, we have to define leverage. What is leverage? And that term is thrown around real estate, the world of real estate, very often. So what is leverage? And leverage is the ability to use someone else's money. It's pretty simple. So I'm using other people's money to leverage my investment. If you do this properly, it can fast track your ability to achieve your goals. And my examples will explain why. So in layman's terms, generic terms, leverage is the ability to use as much of someone else's money, time, and or effort in order to boost your return on investment, ROI, whatever you want to call it, tomato. But it is extremely important to understand why we're using leverage, and there are times when maybe we should and times maybe where we shouldn't. But using leverage can really fast track my investment goals. So let's just get right into it. The first question, how does using leverage boost my ROI? How is that even possible? Here's how. We spoke in previous episodes about goal setting, about what it is you're trying to achieve with real estate or investments in general, and how fast you're trying to get there. So personally, with me, I want to increase cash flow. I want to have a lot of income, monthly income, I want real estate to be a significant investment income tool for monthly positive cash flow. I want to achieve that goal as quick as possible. I also want to do it as safe as possible. By safe, I mean safe for my money. I don't want to risk a ton of money and then it just go to crap. So what is the goal? My goal, I want to achieve at least 20% ROI. That means if I invest $10,000, I want to make $2,000 a year minimum and of positive cash flow. And that's great. But with today's interest rates, the competitive market of investments, trying to find deals, it's very difficult. So how can I achieve that type of, ROI using leverage in today's market? Well, let's go through an example of how I'm able to get an investment if I were to just fund it myself. So really zero leverage. I'm going to use basic numbers here. We're going to talk about a basic investment. This could be a single family home. This could be a duplex, but it could be a triplex. It could be anything. But let's say I buy a property for $100,000. My net cash flow after expenses, taxes, insurance, some, basic maintenance is going to be $833 a month. I multiply that by 12, that turns out to be $10,000 a year. I'm trying to get easy numbers here. Obviously, $10,000 a year from a $100,000 cash purchase of that property turns out to be a 10% return on investment, which means I make my money back in 10 years. If I have that property for 10 years, I will have recouped my entire investment. 10% ROI is great. Don't get me wrong, it outpaces many versions of the stock market, many different investments in the stock market, ETFs and mutual funds that are consistently getting, 8 to 9%. Plus you get the tax benefits with real estate. But this is how leverage significantly helps you. So I'm going to go with that same property example. With today's market, I can probably get an interest rate of 8% on an investment property. If that same property is renting for, let's say, $1,000 a month, it's got to meet that 1% rule. After you take away all the expenses, including the mortgage payment now of that $100,000 property, my all-in investment was 20 grand, my 20% down payment. My $80,000 mortgage payment is taken off of that, $833 that we talked about previously, which leaves me with $246 a month. That doesn't sound like much. You look at the total cash flow and you say to yourself, well, I prefer the $833 a month because I'm making more money. Yes, you are net making more money. But when you talk about the return of investment, because you're using the bank's money, you're leveraging their money on your investment. You invested $20,000 and it makes you $246 a month, almost 1/4 of what you would make if you purchased it cash. This results in $2,956 a year, which is a 14.78% return on your 20 grand. 14.8% return. If we round that up to a 15% return, we have boosted your return of investment by 50%, from 10% to 15%. That's an extra 5%. That is a significant growth. And you ask, well, isn't being in debt bad? Well, depends on how you look at it. If I have to lose money because of debt, or I can use debt to significantly snowball, because now with that same $20,000 investment, if I was able to have a $100,000 cash purchase of a home, I can now buy 5 of those, all making me $246 a month. If we round that up to 250 for easy numbers, 250 times 5, you're at 1,250. So with the same amount of money, you're making not only almost $350 to $400 more per month, but your return of investment's upwards of 15%. That is why leverage is so, so, so important. It can fast track your investment goals. Instead of making your money back in 10 years, now you're close to making your money back in, whatever the math is, 8 years. You save yourself 2 years. That is a 20% gain back in your time and your value. Who would not choose to do that? In this situation of using the bank's money, everybody is a winner. The renter doesn't have the burden, quote unquote, of home ownership. They can live in the home with no long-term, quote unquote, long-term ties to the property. The investor gets an income and has tax benefits. The bank is making 8% on their money. Every single person in the deal is winning. Why would you not do this? Because you don't want debt? I mean, think about it. You're close to a 15% ROI. The lender's in an 8% ROI. The tenant doesn't have to pay for much. Everybody wins. The highest, one of the most interesting things that I ever heard about, which was in favor of renters, was this quote. If your rent is, let's say, $1,500 a month, the most you will ever pay is $1,500 a month. If your mortgage payment is $1,500 a month, the least you will ever pay is $1,500 a month. That is the difference between renting and owning. And that really stuck with me because as a homeowner, it becomes pretty stressful when expenses arise and now you're required to pay. You got to pay up. You got to fix those issues. But if you are a renter, those expenses arise, it's not on you. And if that landlord doesn't fix it, it only devalues his or her property. And now that tenant's most likely going to move to a different landlord that takes care of them and their property. So in terms of leverage, you could always just go about using your own money over and over and over again. The risk, of course, is much, 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 much smaller, but it will take you longer. But that's where knowledge comes in, is the more you understand about your investment, the location, the price, the renter's population, how the rules of the city, the rules of the state, the landlord laws, whatever it is, the more you understand, the better chance you give yourself to succeed, which makes having debt and using leverage and other people's money and time and effort and, knowledge, it makes you much more comfortable because you now have that knowledge of the area. You have that knowledge of the investment. So you say, okay, I'm willing to go get, to pay somebody $600 to $700 a month in order to make $300 a month. If you sat there, it's almost like if I just sat across from you at a table and said, hey, what if I gave you $100 bill and for the next 30 years, you had to give me a $20 bill every month, or let's say $20 bill every year. I get a 20% return. And after 30 years, I'm sitting on whatever the math is, $600 from my $100 investment. People were like, duh, I would do that. Well, that's what real estate is. But the average landlord only has one property, one unit. And the vast majority of people don't invest. But why? Why don't they? Because it's too risky, it's too this, it's too that. Well, I just drew out a scenario for you where you'd be like, that was a no-brainer. So why isn't real estate a no-brainer? It just doesn't, the two mindsets clash. You either do it or you don't. You commit or you don't. You can't be afraid of using debt because the average American only has about $7,000 in their bank account. Actually, I think it might even be less. I had a video on it. It actually might be somewhere, south of $1,000 a month. I'm losing my train of thought here, and now I'm off topic. The average American, I believe, only has about $1,000 in their bank account, which is obviously not enough to invest in real estate. So if you're waiting to not use debt, you're going to be looking for $100,000 to purchase a property cash. That you will never get there. So you have to leverage other people's money to purchase that investment. And if you can't save it on your own, you've got to get the knowledge to use other people's money so that way you can begin. Because it's all about discipline and goals. You got to figure out what it is you're trying to achieve and then go do it. If you're sitting there questioning about flipping or questioning about buying a long-term rental and you're stuttering over your words and you're confused about the area that you're investing in, and your potential client, your potential partner says, hey, how much does this unit rent for? I don't know. Well, what's the neighborhood like? Well, during the day, it's nice. I don't really know what it's like at night. And the next question is, what's the value of the property? How much do you need? And it's like, I actually don't know. I got to get some quotes. If you don't have an answer to any of those questions, why would the person give you their money? It's like it's setting up a business plan. It's a startup. It's a business. It's exactly that. So before you speak to that person, you got to be able, it's like walking in the Shark Tank looking for an investment. It's exactly what it's like. You sit down and you say to yourself, what is this product unit rent for? $1,000 a month. Great. What is the value? 100,000. Doesn't need any repairs. No. Should I hire an inspector? Yeah. Yes. And so on. Now you go to the investor and you say, hey, I need $20,000 to buy this property. I'll manage everything. I'll do it all. You fund the whole deal. And then, we'll move forward in whatever splits that you agree on. Well, now the investor's going, okay, now we're talking, and ask you those questions. Say, yep, this property rents for $800 a month. You're going to be making $500 a month, which is going to be, 6% return on your money. I'm going to be making, if they ask you how much you're making, you can choose to disclose that or not. But then you just say, I'm going to be making $200 a month, whatever, $300 a month. And then now you can answer all their questions, and they're going to be more willing to write you that check now, and they're going to be motivated. When you're speaking about investments, it's important to have investors or let them know, like, this is an investment opportunity. There's many people that just sitting on thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars just sitting in a bank account earning 4 to 5% interest right now, which is great. But does it outpace inflation? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Which, to my personal opinion, I say no. But what the Fed tells us is something different. But if they're going to be making 4 to 5%, and you tell them, hey, you can get a 6 or 7% return with a mortgage with me, or investing in this deal with me as a 50-50 partner, 30-50 partner, or sorry, 30-70 partner, then why would they not take it? It just, well, I'll take it. As long as that person's knowledgeable, and when I give them my money, I can trust them. Why not? So, well, guys, I hope you found this podcast episode very helpful. Don't be afraid of debt. Really, don't be afraid of debt. As humans, we're only afraid of the unknown. And so I encourage you to know about your investment. That's where the knowledge comes in. Learn about your investment. That'll save you, time, value, headache, and allow you to be comfortable going to get debt, using leverage, the bank's money, a private lender's money, so that way you can make the investment happen for yourself. And we talk really only about buying real estate here, like with a mortgage, but you can leverage other people's money for flips, to purchase and flip, and then you split the profits 50-50. There's many different options that you can do, but my expertise is really in buying and hold real estate, and doing BRRRR methods, etc. So I really appreciate you guys hanging out, and I will see you next week for episode, I believe it's 19 now. Yeah, episode 19. So thank you. And always remember, it is never a bad time to buy real estate. The advice and recommendations I offer are intended to be informative and educational, drawing from my own experiences in the real estate market. It is crucial to recognize that every investment decision carries risk and outcomes may vary. I am not a financial advisor, and the information provided during these podcast episodes is not intended as financial, legal, or professional advice. It is your responsibility to conduct thorough due diligence, seek the advice of qualified financial professionals, and make informed decisions based on your individual financial situation and goals.